Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Art of Giving show at prconnectionsradio.com, the voice of new media. My name is Guy Dawson, and I am the executive director of the Cause Marketing Chamber of Commerce. And our interview today about the art of giving is with Brandy Tillmon. She is the founder of Teachers to You Foundation. It is a foundation that is geared towards improving education for people in the Las Vegas area and the Reno area specifically during the pandemic. A very interesting and necessary nonprofit organization. And Brandy, welcome to the Art of Giving show.
Thank you for having me.
And you are a teacher. How long have you been a teacher?
I have been with the school district for about 14 years, but I've been dealing with kids for about 20 years.
And you are a longtime teacher. And what age groups do you teach?
Currently, I teach high school, juniors and seniors, so 11th and 12th grade students.
And of course, right now, the whole educational system across the country, Brandy, is being impacted by the coronavirus. And some school districts, the students are attending school. Some school districts, they're not. You're here in Clark County, where there hasn't been any live school since basically, I guess, was it April or March of last year?
Correct, yeah.
Which has created a lot of challenges. And I know that parents can identify with this. Of course, the students themselves, just so many challenges with going from live learning to online learning. When did you start to identify this as a real problem and then start working on a solution for the issues that a lot of students are having with just being able to attend school online?
After the pandemic hit, I really didn't think that it was going to last this long. So my school did a summer session to help those kids get the credits or the classes that they failed. So I taught summer school. And while I was teaching summer school, I just saw all these kids stop showing up. And these kids were 12th graders that needed maybe one or two classes that just completely stopped showing up, and we couldn't get in contact with them. And then hearing from family members and other teachers the frustration that was going on, trying to connect and build relationships with these kids and get them back in school, it was disheartening. So just speaking to everyone, it was, how do we help these students? How do we help teachers connect? And how do we come together as a community to get back on the same page? And that's when I thought of the foundation.
And you basically have developed this business just over about the last 6 months. I know you have a business on the traditional business side where you tutor students, but you also decided to develop a foundation to go along with your traditional business. And could you tell us about that? What inspired you to create both sides of the business?
Well, with the pandemic, since kids weren't going to traditional school and in-face learning, a lot of parents don't know the internet, especially grandparents that are taking care of their grandkids, or just parents that need to work to provide for their kids. They didn't have time to sit there and actually check in with their kids. So the company came to the idea of, well, let's send people inside houses to help these students. So we decided that we would start a business that would bring academic coaches to students. But from that business, I realized that we're not reaching the students that I want to reach. We're not reaching those disadvantaged students. We're not reaching those students that have two parents that are working because they can't afford it. So that's when the foundation was kind of birthed, was to help those disadvantaged students, especially the ones that have those working households that can't afford it.
In talking with people, Brandy, about schooling in the pandemic, I mean, you hear stories all the time about so many students not being able to go to school because they don't have internet, because of a variety. I mean, the technology is a huge issue. And then along with that, a lot of them they're at home and basically they're being homeschooled. And I hear this all the time from both on the parent side and on the children's side, parents not really feeling like they're capable of teaching their kids. I mean, it's one thing when your kid's in school, you're sending them to school every day and they're learning there, and then they come home, you help them out with their homework. I mean, that's a whole different level than what they're experiencing now, where the kids are home all day and they're there with their parents in many cases. I know, especially here in Southern Nevada, when we've got, our economic situation is just challenging with so many of the layoffs and things. And they're at home with their parents, and their parents become their basically homeschooling their children, and they have no idea of how to do that.
Right. And that is definitely why we decided to come up with the foundation and the business, is to basically give parents a break as well. Even for myself, I have a little girl she was 3 at the time, she just turned 4, but I was trying to work and also teach my class. And it was hectic on me. I actually hired somebody from my company to come to my house to do activities with my daughter, to do crafts with my daughter, just to give me that 2-hour break to where I can breathe and relax and know that she's okay and she's having fun. Because at the end of the day, I'm stressed out because I have to do work online. I'm stressed out because I have to deal with my own kids. So that break allows me to kind of like recenter and refocus, and just like a breath of fresh air. So I use my own company.
Oh, for tutoring services for your own daughter.
Yeah.
Interesting. So you can identify with these parents. Obviously, you being a teacher and knowing I guess a lot with the challenges that these parents are facing, it gives you a perspective that's probably very helpful in the development of this business.
Right. And just as a teacher, there are times when you hear a baby crying in the back, and it might be a little sister, or a lot of times with my population of students, it's their own child. So I have a handful of girls that have to take care of their own child while also having to be at school. Or I have families that live in maybe a 1 or 2 bedroom apartment, and there are 2 to 3 kids in the same room, and I can overhear the other teacher. So it's hectic, and it's sad, and that's why I really want to help these students prosper, because education is the one thing that you can't take away from anybody. And it's sad that they can't get that break to have face-to-face interactions, or even a mentor to say, hey, you can do it. I know everyone's having a tough time, but let's get this school done. Let's get you graduated.
Right. It's just having that person there to motivate. And I know for children, and I know for me when I was a kid, receiving instructions from your parents, there's one way that you take that can be very different from the way that you are taught things from a teacher. And just having that different perspective, as they've been having throughout their lives, because they've been going to live school all this time. And now basically they have very limited access to their teachers. And having this extra person who can come in to the household just brings a whole different perspective. And I would imagine that kids are, for the most part, are probably a lot more receptive to hearing things from someone else who comes in to help them out, as they would be, for the most part anyway, from their own parents.
Right. I did have one example would be, there was a parent where she was struggling to teach her kindergartner because she goes, I'm just mom. So the defiant behaviors are still happening while they're at school because she's just mom. So when you bring somebody else in, that child's going to act differently because they don't know them. And then we set our ground rules. The academic coaches set their ground rules, and that child knows, hey, this is a teacher. I need to behave this certain way, whereas they would act this way towards their mom or dad or their caregiver. Another instance was, I had a dad come and say, I don't want to come home after I get done from work and have to teach my kid. I want to enjoy the time with my kid. I want to have fun time with my kid. I don't want to get off from work, teach myself the lesson, and then teach my son. I just want to enjoy the time with my kid. And that kind of hit home, because that's what it should be. When parents get home from work, it should be a happy time and family time, and not stressing out because they don't know how to teach this certain kind of math.
Yeah, these are a lot of perspectives that you're sharing with us, Brandy, that a lot of people may not realize. And that was a good point that you made. Whereas, where's the enjoyment that you have as a family? Part of that separation that you had. And I remember growing up in my own family. My father and my mother, they went to work. I went to school. Then we ended up back together in the evening. We would have dinner together, things like that. And it allowed us, because we weren't constantly being together. And again, some people, I mean, homeschooling, that didn't really exist a lot back when I was in school. But I know that a lot of people are doing that even before the pandemic. And but that dynamic, as I can completely identify with what you were just talking about a second ago, is so we were able to enjoy one another, talk about our days, what we had done, rather than
Is your homework done? Go do your homework.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah, we didn't have. It was a much different relationship than what so I can completely identify with, and that doesn't make a parent a bad parent, because that's not what they want, right? I mean,
right.
Yeah. So
it's not only that, but the student also it's that inner, it's that inner confidence too. Like it changes their demeanor. Like when they know their stuff is done and they actually learned something and they mastered a concept, it changes that student's demeanor. It changes their attitude. It sparks their confidence. So that's a big thing that I see too, is I'll walk into a situation where I have kids crying because they think they're going to fail school, or they're currently failing school, and I'm just talking to them, and they end up break down and crying because they're frustrated, and then breaks my heart, and I'm like, oh child, we're going to get you some help. And then within a week or two, the academic coaches come, and I go back and speak to the kid, and it's a whole different kid. It's a joyous kid. He's happy, he's excited. There's no longer that stress out there of school and doing it by himself or herself.
Right. And there's so much stress in everyone's lives right now, Brandy, at so many levels, adults and children. And I think being able to relieve that stress, or doing something to stimulate a healthier kid, just because now they've got this person that's coming in and helping them out on a regular basis. I think that is definitely something that's absolutely positive, especially because we don't know yet, although seems like we're moving in the right direction in terms of turning the corner with COVID, but we haven't really seen change yet. And so, because we don't know when it's going to end, when they're going back to school, what an incredible alternative you have created here for children.
Yeah, I think the big thing about the foundation is that these students need help now. Like this is not something that it's going to be down the line. Like this foundation is needed now, especially for all these students. Suicide rate is up for kids. Like that's ridiculous, all because of they're not interacting with their peers. And then bring an academic coach and a tutor who's more like a mentor. These kids can sit there and talk about their video games or whatever kids talk about, their Legos. I don't know.
And of course, you've gotten this foundation started recently, and just like any other organization, there are a lot of steps and pieces just to get it going. By the way, I work with Brandy on a lot of projects related to developing her nonprofit organizations, and had an opportunity to write a press release. And I've really been watching closely what she's doing in the development of this. And as you're creating a foundation, you've got to build a background of the foundation. This is something that a lot of people may not know, is you're looking for help for these children in terms of being able to bring more tutors in to help essential workers or kids who come from disadvantaged backgrounds. You've got the greatest of intentions in what you're doing and want to do, and yet you're just establishing a foundation. And so that is a challenge. Do you want to speak to that?
Yeah, there have been multiple people that have wanted to donate, although since we are brand new, they don't donate. Like you said, we don't have a backbone yet because we are so brand new. So that's the problem is I need this, like kids need this now. There are special ed kids that aren't receiving services because it's impossible to receive some of the services online. So it's a matter of doing this now. But yeah, that's kind of the disheartening thing that I am running into is people do want to help and people do want to help students. It's just they need they need 2 years of uh, I guess paperwork or whatever you want to call it. And I don't have that because we are new.
Right. And so there's, the chicken or the egg, right? And those are the types of
Right.
things that you encounter in, a nonprofit business or a traditional business. There's always these types of things that you have to work through, not having that background as a nonprofit organization, even though you've got something that we need right now. It's not like you can wait 2 years for them to feel that you are a legitimate nonprofit organization. You've got something that they need right now. And how are you managing that? Being in a situation really kind of definitely beyond your control because you just wanted to start the foundation to help the kids. What are some of the ways
Right.
that you're managing the challenge of this?
Just continue to reach out to continuing and bugging people and saying and trying to show them that this needs to happen right now. Like all the statistics point into this is happening right now. So it's just kind of going back to hitting the pavement and talking to people, sending numerous letters, being that annoying person in their ear, like, hey, this is what needs to happen. Let's take this positivity and let's start it somewhere. It's got to start somewhere. I just can't help kids out the blue.
Right, and as I had mentioned before, I've been working with Brandy on this project, and we've really begun to embrace the grassroots element of it. And sometimes that's just the way that you have to go. You know what I mean, Brandy? In situations like this, where you want to make it happen, and so we've been seeking other organizations that may not have such stringent requirements. They see the value of what it is that Brandy is wanting to bring to the world with her foundation, and yet they're not so concerned about the stringent requirements of having that background. I mean, there's more than one way to skin a cat, as they say, right, Brandy?
Right.
And try different strategies to make something like this work because of how important it is for the kids.
Correct. Absolutely.
And as you're creating this foundation, what has surprised you the most about the process of getting it off the ground?
Um, I guess I took for granted the fact that we do need that backbone. I just assumed, you know what, people are totally going to help us. We're helping kids, like we're helping all the disadvantaged students, English language learners, ethnic kids. We're hitting like low to no income. We're hitting all these kids that need help. So I figured people would jump on board. Um, but I was wrong about that. So that's kind of surprising is that they need that paperwork in order to help.
Mm-hmm. Right. And so there's, again, we work with a lot of nonprofit organizations with the Cause Marketing Chamber of Commerce, and meeting people who start one, that these are people with huge hearts who have wonderful intentions. They absolutely want to contribute to the community. And yet a lot of times before you get started, you don't really get an education on things like this. These are some of the things that you learn once you've actually started your nonprofit organization is, oh yeah, there are things like the requirements that corporations have before they can actually donate money to a nonprofit. So it's definitely a learning experience what you're going through. Just like a traditional business, you encounter things that you don't necessarily expect to encounter, And I'm sure that that was a huge awakening. And what about the amount of competition that you have in the nonprofit world? Could you account for
That's another thing too that I realized that kind of opened my eyes is all these little small nonprofits people don't know about. It's all these big nonprofits that are taking all the money. So that's kind of disheartening too. So my view of nonprofits have definitely changed. I'm for the little man. Uh, it's the little nonprofits and the local nonprofits that I would like to help rather than these big corporate nonprofits.
What is the most joyful aspect that it had getting the foundation going?
Just to see the kids that we have helped, just to see their demeanor change, their attitude do a whole 180. And that brings joy. That's the whole reason why I started this foundation, is to help kids, and knowing knowing that I'm helping someone learn and someone get an education and better theirself. That's what it's about. I actually saw a student yesterday driving, and he was so excited to see me, and all I did was wave through my car. But just to see the excitement of him to see me, like, it kind of relit that spark, and this is why I'm in it.
Yes, and I mean, it's been really interesting to watch your commitment. You've got a new business. I mean, you're basically running two businesses, and you just started in July and August to run these businesses, which, I mean, just running one business alone on the traditional side is a lot of work. And yet here you are, you're running a foundation and a traditional business at the same time. How do you manage that? The fact that you've got a for-profit business to pay bills, and at the same time, you have this foundation that you're really passionate about.
Like I said, I got my own academic coach that comes over here. No, I'm just kidding. Well, not really, but it's difficult, but knowing the outcome and know that I'm helping kids, especially, my time is, I might lose some sleep, but knowing that these kids are gonna get an education and better themselves, I can lose some sleep over that. I'm fine with that. And not to mention that I have an awesome support system. My family is amazing and helps all the time. So if I need somebody to watch my kids, or I need somebody to just kind of bounce ideas off, they're always there for me. So I am very grateful for my family.
Mm-hmm. That's an excellent point that you make about having a village around you. And I think that when people start nonprofit organizations or foundations, again, it's usually there's one leader who has a passion for something that the society needs. Always, always. I think when the desire to create a foundation or a nonprofit organization is put on a person's heart, it's because there absolutely is a need in society for what it is that they want to offer. But it's important that we understand that it takes a village to raise a child, it takes a village to raise up a foundation or a nonprofit organization. And so your support group that you were talking about, I think that that's a very important thing for someone who's getting something started the way that you are, is to just understand that hey, having people who support you, that nurture you, that's really what the Cause Marketing Chamber of Commerce is all about, is we providing some of that nurturing that you had mentioned to help nonprofits and foundations to be able to weather all of the ups and downs that you're inevitably going to encounter when you're creating something from the ground up.
Yeah, I totally agree.
Well, you've got a concept that is so needed and necessary in our society today, Brandy, and please let everyone out there know how they can get in contact with you if they want more information about potentially donating to the foundation, or if they've got a child who they would like to put in your program. Will you share your information with everyone?
Yeah, we have a website. You can go to teachers2u.us, and it's teachers, the number 2, YOU.us. And then you can go on our website, and my email is there. It's brandy.tillmon@teachers2u.us. If you need to get in contact with me, there's a link that you can go on. So yeah, please email me, or you can give me a call. The business line is 702-268-5235, if you would like to speak to me as well, or text.
And I can't think of an organization that is more significant in our current circumstances than Teachers to Youth Foundation. This is our youth. These are the people who are going to be running our society in the future. And they have been handed a deck of cards that is much different than the deck of cards than most of us could ever remember in our lifetime. I know I never experienced anything like this coming up through school, not having access to that basic part of life, which is going to school, being with other kids. It's got to be just so challenging. And we've got to have empathy for our youth during this time. And please support Brandy's foundation, Teachers to You, because these kids this is all we have. This is our future. I know it's a cliche, but it's absolutely the truth. And thank you so much, Brandy, for being a part of the Art of Giving today.
Thank you so much for having me and letting me spread my nonprofit to everyone.
Yes, keep spreading your joy, and let's continue to nurture our youth by making sure that they get educated. It is such an important aspect of a society, is to have people who are educated, who read, write, and it's just beyond words how significant it is that we have our kids stay in school and learn things for our society and our world. Well, thank you all for tuning into the Art of Giving podcast here at prconnectionsradio.com. If you want more information about the Cause Marketing Chamber of Commerce, we are an organization that supports the growth of traditional businesses and nonprofit organizations such as Brandy's. We're all about bringing both communities together for synergistic relationships. There are so many ways that traditional businesses and nonprofit organizations can support one another. And that's what we facilitate at the Cause Marketing Chamber of Commerce. You can visit our website, causemarketingchamberofcommerce.com, for more information. So please enjoy your holidays, and we will see you for the next edition of the Art of Giving. Take care of yourselves.